Hi everyone, Jessica Brogley here. I'd like to take a brief moment and recap some of the skills you picked up at our most recent Google training. The first thing you need to remember is to always start out your day in Drive. Yes, you can launch apps for Docs, Sheets, Forms, all of the Google tools. However, you will have greater success if you start with Google Drive. So here I am in my test Google Drive account, and I'll walk you through a few things just to kind of refresh your memory once you're on your own. It's kind of common for teachers to say, now what was that we talked about in training? Well, this video will quickly recap those features for you. So number one, always start out in Drive, right? When you get into Drive, remember that the new button is your best asset. When you click the new button, you can make a new folder, upload files and folders, and then start new things like docs, sheets, slides, forms, drawings, and even custom mind maps. So let's take a look at the filters underneath that. The first one obviously is My Drive. From there, we can look at the Shared With Me filter. Now, the Shared With Me filter is just what it says. It's items that people have shared with you. Now, if there are items in here that you wish were in My Drive, you can move them by right-clicking on the file and then selecting Add to My Drive. From there, you'll be asked, where do you want to put it in My Drive? So you can click Move, and now it's been moved over to My Drive. Now, I don't do that for much because I like knowing that some of those files are sitting in the Shared With Me. For example, I have a colleague that collaborates on articles to write or presentations, and I never move her stuff over because I like knowing exactly where to find it under the Shared With Me filter. It's really user preference and what you get the hang of. From there, you can look at Google Photos. This isn't something I would use on my school account, frankly. Basically, you can set your smartphone up to sync all of the photos you take over Wi-Fi or using data if you want, your data plan, and it will upload those files or photos here. It's a great way to back up your photos. I think back to when I got my first digital camera, I would burn CDs or go to Walmart and print out all those pictures. Well, now people are just backing them up to Google Photos or Dropbox. But this is a school account, so I'm not going to do that. But if you want to drag photos here, you certainly can, or make a folder in Google Drive called My Photos. The next filter down is the Recent filter. This lets you pick through what things you worked on most recently. So if there were something where you couldn't remember the file name or you couldn't find it in My Drive, but you knew you worked on it 2 days ago, you could click on Recent and then scroll through your items until you find it. It's one way if you're someone that your Google Drive account got out of hand from the get-go and you don't have it quite cleaned up yet, that's okay because you could click on Recent and go find your most recently used items that way. The next item down is the Starred filter. Anytime you have a document that you use a lot, it's really important to you, you can right-click on it and click Add Star. Then when you click the Starred filter, that item will show up here. So it's really handy if you have a document that you use every single day and you don't want to try to find it in My Drive. You could just star it and then click on the starred filter and be able to access it quickly. In my day-to-day work, I star all of my syllabi, that way I can find them because I use them every single class period. And at the bottom, of course, is trash, where it will house things for 30 days. So you probably want to start making folders right away. Get off on the right foot and start with a very good organizational structure. Yes, Google Drive doesn't require you, lots of people don't use a file structure because in the search bar, Google will do a great job filtering for you. So when you click in the search bar, you can filter down if you know that the last thing you worked on was a presentation but you don't remember the name of it. You could just filter out all of the presentations and look at things that way. Or if you know kind of what you think the name is, oh man, I know it was something, it had the word basics in it. Well, if you just search for part of the word, you'll get it. Let's take a look at the items on the far right. The first thing you need to notice is the difference between List View, which you're seeing now, and Grid View. Grid View offers you little snapshots of the items in Google Drive. Some people really like that because they just appreciate being able to get a little snippet. I really don't because it takes up so much of my digital screen space. Again, it's just user preference. So this is list view, this is grid view. The next item over allows you to sort your files. So when I click the A to Z, I can sort by name, so it'll alphabetize it, or I can sort by the day I worked on it last. So if I know I don't remember the name, but I know I worked on it earlier today, I can sort by the date, and it brings my most recent files to the front. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back to name so everything's alphabetized. The third item over is the little I. That is to view details. And basically that tells you what you've been up to in your folder or My Drive. So if I've shared a folder with a colleague and I'm curious what's been going on in that folder, I can click the I and kind of get an idea of who's made what, who's moved anything. The last item to check is the gear, and the only thing that you really need to watch for right away is to make sure under settings that you've clicked convert uploaded files to the Google Doc editor format. That means if you upload a Word document, it'll flip over to a Google Doc, a PowerPoint to a slides, and a Excel spreadsheet to sheets in Google. So you really want to make sure that you've clicked those things. Otherwise, you'll upload a Word document. It'll stay a Word document. You can't edit it. So you'll have to click open with Google Docs. And so then it will go ahead and convert it to a Google Doc, and yes, you can work on it, but you still have that old Word document sitting in your drive, and new users will tell you that that makes a Google Drive account become messy in a hurry. So you might as well do the conversion right away so you can kind of keep it a little bit more clean. Let's go ahead and make a new folder quick. So I'm going to click on New, and then Folder, and we'll call it my infamous delete this later folder. So let's change the color. You'll right click on the folder and go down to change color, pick your color, voila. And as you always know, you can drag items into one another. Sure, you could right click and move to and move it that way. So I'll just move it to a random delete this later and be perfectly fine moving things that way. You could also move files this way. So that covers just a few of the basics of how to navigate in Google Drive and just setting up that file structure early, changing the color, knowing how to build and add and start new documents. Always start in Google Drive. Yes, you're probably going to install Google Sheets, Slides, Forms, and all those things onto your Chromebook or in your Google Drive account, in your Google Chrome account, but it is so much easier for new teachers to get the hang of this if they say, I am going to start out in Google Drive and use that as your launch pad. Good luck. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to holler.